It is Firearms Friday, and we are coming to you on almost all the major platforms. Mario, it's hard to keep up. I think Rumble's still going through the processes trying to get everything set up correctly. So we're right now, for example, we're on X, but Rumble still doesn't integrate correctly. So the show goes out to X. People can watch on X, but I don't get updated viewership numbers or integrated chat from X. And then we used to be on Twitch. Now we're suddenly not on Twitch, and I don't know why. Facebook comes up and down, but we are always reliably on Rumble and YouTube, and most especially Rumble, because let's be real, Rumble pays the bills. YouTube doesn't like to send us money because, well, they're a bunch of communist asshats. So if you're watching anywhere but Rumble, get your asses over to Rumble. We're watching the viewership totals this morning. There's a certain number that I want to hit, and if I see that number and a bunch of people chatting in the live chat on the Rumble side, then I'll try to give away some free Rumble premium memberships.
Yeah.
That gives you 1 month, and 1 month of free premium means 4 of our deep dives. We've got one coming at you tomorrow. Are we giving them a surprise, Mario, or you want to tell them what we're talking about?
It's going to be the origins of the Jewish mafia in America, okay, or the Kosher Nostra. Should be interesting. Starts in New York City. All right.
Shit. I mean,
I'm surprised.
They've just selected through the primary process a no shit foreign-born communist, whose major campaign promise is, I will use the law enforcement apparatus of the city to commit sedition and obstruct.
I mean, what did you really expect? I mean, it's the first completely non-American election, in New York City. Think of all the 20 million migrants under the Biden administration.
I mean, New York City.
Millions of them went to New York City. All right, New York City's. I'm sure their voter protections. All right, I'm sure those are non-existent because Orange man bad. Therefore, we have to cheat, or basically we need to maintain our Democrat monopoly. All right, on politics within the city and the state generally. So, yeah. So I guess it came back to bite them. All right.
Well, New York City is a prime example of the fallacy of the white supremacist, right? Because you have this idea among what are referred to as white supremacists, which legitimate white supremacists are a very rare creature. You won't actually run into those who believe that they're superior just because they're white. And New York City puts the lie to the concept that the ethnicity, the genetic makeup alone is sufficient to make someone superior. To be clear, I am a personal supremacist. I'm better than you because I worked my ass off to be that way. Now, I was born with certain advantages. I'm a giant, I'm a genius, and I'm a white guy. Those are certain advantages, but not taking advantage of those things, squandering that value is not going to do you any favors. You look at New York City and what you've got right now, they are 26% white. Only 26% of New York City is white. But how did that happen? It happened with white liberals, most especially awfuls, affluent white liberal females, voting against the interests of their ethnicity specifically. They're the only group in the world that have a completely oikophobic out-group preference. They hate themselves and everyone like them. And it puts the lie to the idea that in America, there is some systemic mechanism of white supremacy that prevents other people based on their ethnicity alone from rising up. Instead, what we see that enclaving and balkanization, and everybody but the white people are allowed to exclude anybody they want based on their ethnicity. And so if you're white, you're basically, you're gonna be sued into oblivion if you tell somebody, no, I don't want to buy a product from you because I only do business with white people. You're allowed to do that if you're anything but white. But
There's
you
nothing-
cannot. There is no white business owners of America or white American male college fund. Those things don't exist.
There's nothing more offensive to an awful or to their male counterpart, the soylent cuck, all right, than a white person who refuses to go along with their delusions and refuses to commit suicide with them. Okay,
Right.
Nothing could be more offensive to them. And you can call me a white nationalist if you want. That's fine. But a white supremacist? No, I don't believe in white supremacy. If white supremacy was real, then we wouldn't be in this fucking situation we're in right now. Okay, if white supremacy was real, then we would not be getting attacked basically on all sides from religious, racial, basically we wouldn't be getting attacked on all fronts by the entire third world global south, and we wouldn't have allowed traitors from within to basically tear down the walls of our civilization. Okay, if we were supreme, that could never have happened. All right, so white supremacy is a joke. So
Yep. Wow, that absolutely was not on my agenda for this morning.
me neither.
I'm not entirely sure how we got to that, but I mean, legit, this is the agenda for this morning. DOJ cuts the ATF, Bondi's rollbacks, the ATF-DEA church shooting, suppressor, and SBR update. And actually, I want to start with the suppressor and SBR update because apparently, as I was talking to Mario earlier, he's not as versed on this one as I am. Mario is our historical and global politics genius.
I'm allergic to reading like the daily activities and the skullduggery within Congress. I literally can't read it. Okay, it's just like, wow, you guys are masters of finding the most convoluted ways possible to explain why you can't do anything. Like you are masters of bullshit,
brother. I tell you what.
What is the point? Why are you there? Just resign. All of you resign.
It was Roderick Viewen Purvis.
That's a big book.
And that's exactly how Rod would say it. That's a big book. It was Roderick Viewen Purvis that turned me into the litigious, brilliant mind that I am by hitting me with this stuff. And you don't even have to read anything from that page just to understand that is dense ass text. This is 2 volumes. That's a
weapon. You can kill a man with that.
And it's 2 volumes. Oh, and in fairness, that one's outdated. Some things have changed in the law, but he made me read the academic legal books on Georgia real estate law. Sergeant Major asks, "Where's the big dictionary?" Yeah, I have 100-year-old copy, an over 100-year-old copy of
I got
Webster's.
Yep.
It's big as shit. It's a gigantic book. And Sergeant Major, it is not in the studio. That book is carefully wrapped in paper and plastic to protect it from the elements until I build the new studio and can put it in a proper container so that it doesn't fall apart. Same thing with with my Funkin' Wagnalls, and that book's only 50 years old.
I have one of those as well. It looks like the type of Bible you would find literally chained to a podium in a medieval library. It's
yes.
the type of book so large that children can't lift it. It's like Mjolnir for children. It's like
There's an episode of a show called White Collar, Mario, where this big mobster walks into the FBI art crimes. And I allegedly did this and that, but listen, I need your help. Somebody stole the Bible out of my church, and it's this giant gold-plated, beautiful. I mean, the book has monetary value entirely divorced from its historic value, but the urban legend is that it's a magic healing Bible, and if you touch it, then God's healing power will wash down over you. And so the whole episode goes through them trying to hunt down the art dealer, the art dealer, the art smuggler that stole the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. And you eventually find out that it all started with this homeless veteran whose dog was sick, who stole the Bible. And his plan was he was going to steal it, take it, and let it heal his dog, and then he was going to try to put it back, but somebody else stole it from him.
He got
this whole big thing, and of course the whole show goes through debunking the veracity of miracles, and miracles never happen, and there is no God, and that's how all this works. And then at the very end, they get the Bible back, they give it to the mobster to take back to his church. The mobster meets the vet with the sick dog and says, "You know, I like dogs. Let me help you out, brother. I'm going to take your dog to my vet. He's the best there is in New York." And you get that moment where the agent is telling his consultant, it's like, "Listen, son, that's how it works. This is how miracles work. You just, he got the book to heal the dog, and now the dog's going to get healed."
It's at the chain.
That's what magic looks like.
Patrick Brown, you have a giant Bible that belonged to us. You have a giant Schofield reference Bible. Uh-oh, Patrick.
Holy shit.
That's
Son,
the one
that's worth a show.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's yes, it is. It is. That's the one that convinced the modern evangelical church to equate the character Israel from the Bible as being a direct reference to modern day state of Israel. That's why we have to. Yeah, such blessings of Israel, you know, trans kids, infinity immigration, monetary insolvency, a lot of blessings there, Patrick. That's a whole other show, though. That's actually a deep dive, to be honest, but I don't want to do that one. Not for a while.
Yeah, we're gonna have to borrow that from you. Okay, so the first thing. Hey, we're 15 minutes into Firearms Friday. Let's talk about some firearms, Mario.
As we were. Okay.
The first thing in, we've got gun owners sound alarm over proposed ATF and DEA merger. So let's talk about that. The proposal was to merge the ATF and the DEA. I'm not sure whose nut job brainchild this was. I would be all right with a merger between the ATF and the DEA under exactly one condition. Total reduction, complete and total reduction of the entire organization, right, of both organizations, with the expressed purpose of eliminating both organizations. Because let's be very, very clear on this. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The ATF and the DEA are criminal organizations. Both organizations exist only to conduct government-sanctioned activities which are explicitly forbidden to the government. The government is explicitly, by the Constitution, forbidden from doing the things that the ATF and DEA do. Neither of these organizations should exist. Both are presented to us as being law enforcement. And in both cases, what they are doing, rather than enforcing law, is they are actively conducting violations of the Constitution.
Yep, and the ATF is a subdirectory of the IRS as well, which is only constitutional because they literally had to create an amendment to make it constitutional.
Yes, so they had to create, and so let me buttress that a little bit.
1913.
We had to create an amendment, right? The 18th Amendment to engage in prohibition, to criminalize alcohol across the country. No such amendment was ever made to create the authority for the government to control substances like marijuana, methamphetamine, cocaine, etc. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of the idea of everybody having clean, easy, free access to these kind of drugs. But on the legal front, let me, to be very, I'm not advocating for people to do recreational drugs. Personally, I don't even drink very much. And that's just a matter of habits. But the thing about them is we had to create a constitutional amendment in order to give the government the authority to control alcohol. No such amendment was ever created with regard to any other controlled substance. And the reason that the amendment had to be created for prohibition to begin with is because the Constitution is very clear, most especially within the 10th Amendment, which says that any authority which is not explicitly enumerated to the federal government does not belong to the federal government and is reserved. That means that you cannot have this authority. This authority can only be had by the states and the people. So all drug control is illegal. Everything from the existence of prescription pads written by doctors down to a government telling you that you can't grow marijuana on your own land. Those laws are illegal, and every signatory to any law in that regard has committed a crime and broken their oath of office. The same is true with the ATF situation, right? So while no amendment, on the drugs, the alcohol stuff, while no amendment was made to add that authority to the government, it is true that the Constitution does not explicitly say something like the Congress shall make no law prohibiting the use of substances XYZ, etc. What it does say is that if we didn't tell you you can do it, you can't do it. But with the ATF in particular, we have the Second Amendment, which explicitly says shall not be infringed. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, which is to say that no legal apparatus which has any relationship whatsoever to the existence or the keeping and carrying or use of firearms can be interpreted as lawful or tolerable. Now, that doesn't mean that the Second Amendment gives you the right to murder people. It doesn't. It gives you the right to keep and bear arms. Murder is a very separate crime, and the implement is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if I use a firearm, a knife, or a bic and a propane tank. It doesn't change the crime itself. The crime of murder is unrelated to firearms.
In regards to the banning of drugs, restriction of drugs, right, and how it's unconstitutional. I mean, does the Constitution have any method of addressing, say, a public health crisis? Like, let's say, how would the founders have felt about fentanyl, per se? Okay, like a highly synthetic, deadly drug that can kill a user the very first time they use it. I mean, what would be the response to that? Like, how would they respond to that? Is it not supposed to get to the constitutional level? Is that supposed to be like covered by local jurisdiction? Does the Constitution allow for local jurisdictions to make those decisions to ban certain things? I mean, it seems like an inherent weakness. Basically, maybe things that they just didn't know could possibly happen. All right, one of those things.
There is the welfare clause for the general welfare, and I can't recite it off the top of my head. The government can take actions related to the general welfare. Interestingly, however, for the purposes of creating the DEA and the various mechanisms of controlling substance use, abuse, production, distribution, retail exchange, etc. Excuse me. Sorry about that. For the purpose of creating those laws, the welfare clause is not usually what's addressed. Usually the argument is made, especially before the Supreme Court, related to the Commerce Clause, which says that the government shall keep regular trade between the states. And gross misinterpretations and lawyering and just mental gymnastics, let's be honest, have led lawyers to argue that what it means for the government to keep trade regular between the states is that if there is a possibility that an item or a substance or a service or product might might be traded across state lines, then the government has the absolute authority to regulate that. And to regulate and to keep regular are two very different things. There's a reason the founders used the language keep regular.
And
what is especially offensive about that argument is, let's take the state of Georgia, for example. It is illegal in the state of Georgia for me to grow marijuana on my private property, even for my own personal use. Now, the legal argument is the Commerce Clause, that the government has the right to regulate trade between states. Now, if I grow a cannabis plant on my I don't smoke pot. I tried it when I was a teenager. Not for me. It didn't fit in my risk-reward maintenance matrix. It was too much risk, not enough profit. But for the sake of this conversation, for this argument, if I wanted to grow a cannabis plant on my property, and not even take it next door to the neighbor's house. I'm talking about one that grows on my property. I do whatever process. I don't know what all goes into it. I have to dry it out or whatever, like tobacco, and stuff it in a pipe or roll it in paper to smoke it. It lives and dies, is used, and I smoke it on my property. I get high. I have a little fun. Watch a video and get some chuckles and then go to sleep. And by the time I wake up, I'm sober and clean, and that's how I am the next time I hit the road. Never leaves the private property. Where in Zeus's third nipple do you get off on arguing that has a relationship to interstate commerce? Right?
Zeus's Scaramanga from The Man with the Golden Gun. Interesting.
Yes, sir.
No one gets that reference. That's okay, though. I'm a James Bond nerd. Okay. Anyway, continue.
I'm not, but I might have to become one. I think Michael needs some James Bond in his life.
Yes, he does. All boys need that. Okay.
I'm a little afraid. Yeah. This could be its whole own other show.
Yeah.
The Star Wars debacle. What Disney did to Star Wars. Brother, I'm almost afraid to introduce my son to the intellectual properties that we enjoyed as younger men because of where it leads. Right? It's like, yeah, I want you to know that Han shot first. But if I teach you that Han shot first and why that's actually important, right? That's not just an esoteric trivia from popular culture. The discussion on whether or not Han shot first is actually important philosophically, politically, and to the global conversation about objective morality, right? But if I introduce him to that, the next thing you know, he's watching Solo and being inundated with psychotic, spiteful, mutant, communist, feminist diatribes from the robot sex slave, because of course Disney would introduce our children to robot sex engines.
He needs to learn that being a man means taking orders from like a pink-haired lesbian space admiral.
Oh God.
Look, just show him the original trilogy and just let him know, like, it only gets worse from here. Like, this is it. That it was the most valuable intellectual property probably on the planet. All right. And we can watch some things outside of the original, but I'm going to show you how deep this rabbit hole goes. We're going to slander. All right, we're going to slander these movies as we watch them. If we have to watch anything outside of the original, that's the way I would do it. I would just play it and just shit on it mercilessly in front of your child, and then they'll be like, "Yeah, this movie sucks, Dad." Like, there we go.
I actually have done that with a few movies. So anyway, somebody floated the idea of making a merger between the ATF and the DEA. And that shit got shut down hard. Pam Bondi basically said, look, I don't need congressional approval. I'm just telling you this doesn't happen. We're done here. Now, let's do a little update on the SBR, on the Short Act and the HPA, the Hearing Protection Act. So Short Act and the Hearing Protection Act, HPA made it through the House. The Short Act didn't, right? These are both provisions in the Big Beautiful Bill, in one Big Beautiful Bill. The Short Act got added back into the Big Beautiful Bill in the Senate, but now both are facing a challenge by the Senate Parliamentarian, and they're going through the bird bath, they call it, BYRD, the bird bath. So the bird bath is a Senate Parliamentarian procedure by which individual items in a budget proposal, which are subject to slightly different rules on voting procedure. The Byrd Act determines whether or not the individual items are sufficiently related to the budget to be allowed into a budget procedural bill. And it looks like the Senate Parliamentarian is about to axe the Short Act and the HPA based on the assertion that they are not sufficiently related to the budget, right? So a few Republicans reacted with indignation Thursday after the Senate Parliamentarian advised that some of the measures in their tax and immigration bill could not be included in the legislation. I want to show you that real quick. Tax and immigration bill. This is a bill on taxation. Let me remind you, the NFA, the National Firearms Act, is a tax. That is not an opinion that we hold. We covered this, I think, last Friday. The NFA was explicitly designed as a tax by Coomer, right? Specifically because understanding that the NFA is illegal, is forbidden by the Second Amendment, they said, instead of taking away guns because we're not allowed to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to place a tax on the guns so that there's regulation, registration, licensure, and a costly bar to entry. Now, in fairness, the tax has always been $200. It was $200 when it was introduced 80 years ago. It's still $200 today. It was never about the money. It was about creating a bar to entry. In fact, specifically what it was about doing an end run on the Constitution to infringe your right to keep and bear arms. The NFA is unconstitutional on its face because it is related to firearms. It is a government action by the federal government related to firearms. But more importantly, for the purpose of this conversation, it is explicitly a tax. And specifically, it is a tax on your rights to keep and bear arms. It is a tax on a constitutional right. It is similar to a poll tax in that way. It is a tax which interferes with the conduct and exercise of your constitutionally guaranteed rights. You'll notice I try not to say constitutional rights. I try to be careful about that. That's bad language. There are no such things as constitutional rights. The Constitution grants you no rights. The Constitution lists rights, which we assume that you have, as they are given to you by the Creator. And we don't have to have a theological argument about the identity of God to acknowledge that there is some higher power from which your existence flows, and by dint of which that existence includes unalienable rights. And now we've seen it as a legal term of art, the nebulous penumbra of unalienable rights, from which we have enumerated several: speech, keep and bear arms, to be secure your person's properties and papers against unreasonable search and seizure, against extraordinary liens and debts, etc. If a right is mentioned in the constitutional, it is not a constitutional right. It is a constitutionally guaranteed right. The Constitution explicitly forbids the government from interfering with that right. When the government charges you a tax on the exercise of your right, the government is in violation of the law. The entire government is in violation of the law. So long as laws exist which are violative of the law, then the conduct of enforcing such violative laws should be considered the actions of rogue agents of the government, which are by definition criminals.
Yep.
Those agents include all law enforcement officers who are conducting any enforcement activity related to such violative actions, and all legislative, judicial, or executive agents who are signatories to the existence and perpetuity of those violative laws. This is not an opinion. This that I'm explaining to you is, in fact, the law as it is written. You can reference the entire body of the Constitution, and especially Section 242 of U.S. Title 18, which refers to the illicit violation and suppression of civil liberties under the color of law by a government agent, for which I might add the penalty is up to and including death.
And I really should have studied before this show, because I don't have any of the answers. I'm just floating in the breeze here. That's okay though.
No, you're good. You're good. You're going to have fun with this, because now we're going to talk about who the Senate Parliamentarian is. The Senate Parliamentarian.
Harry Reid. Harry Reid.
Oh, no.
My goodness.
Her name is Elizabeth McDonough. And, fair play for a boomer. She looks like she's doing okay. 60-year-old boomer Elizabeth McDonough is an American lawyer. July 17th, she was Senate Parliamentarian, Chief Advisor on Rules and Procedures, which she was appointed in 2012. Okay, so we're talking about an Obama appointee.
Yep.
Graduated from George Washington University, and she got her law degree in Vermont. Right? So she's one of Bernie's girls. And what has she done as the Senate Parliamentarian? Okay, we're talking about a woman who is now making the argument that legislation...
Is she a member? Is she a senator herself? Or does she
No,
have
she's a parliamentarian. That is its own specific position. It's an appointed position.
That doesn't sound like a real job. That
She was
doesn't sound like
appointed.
a real job. It does.
Well,
she could be overruled by
it is a real
Mann.
job, and it is an important job. She was the parliamentarian that advised the Senate through both of Trump's impeachments, and more salient. So that right there speaks to a certain bias that should concern us. More salient to this, however, she was the parliamentarian who helped guide the Affordable Care Act through the process of getting approved, of getting basically sanctioned by the Supreme Court when they kept making the flip-flop argument. Obama's lawyers kept flipping and flopping back and forth between whether the individual mandate was a tax or a penalty. They would call it a tax when it was okay to call it a tax. They would call it a penalty when it was illegal to call it a tax. So sometimes it's illegal to call it a penalty. Sometimes it's illegal to call it a tax, and they would just flip flop back and forth. This woman is one of the people who was busy advising on how to basically end run that legality.
Wasn't John Roberts himself, like Supreme Court justice, instrumental in like correcting the verbiage of the text of that bill? Like the teacher giving
Correct.
answers to Nancy Pelosi to help get her a D on her exam. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Traitor.
She also used the bird bath previously to remove provisions.
Hey, are we talking about Robert Byrd, the late senator from West Virginia?
Yes, we are.
Like that bird? Okay, got it.
Yep.
Just curious.
Yeah, that's where the bird rule comes from.
Okay.
So she advised on procedure during the development of the Senate's version of the bill, the Better Care Reconciliation Act, where she ruled that language eliminating funding for Planned Parenthood and language banning abortion coverage in Obamacare was not permissible under budget reconciliation procedures. She ruled that language which gave funding from the budget to Planned Parenthood and paid for abortion from the budget was unrelated to the budget, and so could not be included in the Better Care Reconciliation Act, which was an attempt in 2017 essentially to repeal and replace Obamacare.
That's why I said it's not a real job. Her job is literally to make shit up. That's her job. Like,
correct.
That's not a real job.
Right. Since 2012, her job has been to interfere in bills that are put forward by Republican House, Republican Senate, in hopes that it gets to a Republican president, so that we can do important things like put an end to the government funding of child mutilation and child murder and infanticide by defunding Planned Parenthood, to put an end to exorbitant, outrageous healthcare costs by eliminating the Obamacare nightmare. Her job since 2012 has been to say, you know what? I've decided that you're not allowed to vote on this. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to have conservative opinions or pursue conservative agendas or objectives.
Let's see here in the chat. Lazy Thune is not MAGA, and Dems would fire a conservative in a heartbeat. I guess so. Why wasn't this woman replaced or in the previous Trump administration? I don't know why. Because I know why. Because Mitch McConnell doesn't do anything. Mitch McConnell, he saved us from Merrick Garland. That's it.
And I've said many times before, the biggest
thing of value he did.
The biggest mistake Donald Trump made in his first administration is he didn't fire everybody on day one.
He didn't do what Obama did. We would have been better off as a country if he had done so. Okay, especially the military. All right, parliamentary can be fired by the Senate leader, says Pitt Danny.
That is
correct. I believe that J.D. Vance can overrule her as well. Like he can come in and cast.
That is also correct.
Yeah, but I don't know, man.
So basically, where we're at right now is we've got Thune and Vance are both in a position to do something about this psychotic leftist who is clearly abusing her authority. I mean, oh no, you can't have budget items related to Planned Parenthood because that's not related to the budget. I'm sorry, wasn't the beginning of that sentence something about budget items?
You know,
that would be, I should think, related to the budget.
The problem is, like, people that when you read about nonsense like this, okay, like let's say what you were talking about here. If I was reading this in an article, I would just immediately tune out because my brain is just sending the message like, this is bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
This is make believe. This is bullshit. So I tune out. So I'm not interested. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. And the more and more people who are not interested in the goings on of the Senate or the chamber, or the House, Congress in general, then the more nonsense that they do behind closed doors, because we're not active participants because we don't care anymore, because we basically forsook the entire institution. So, I don't know what the solution is to that, but yeah, you have to make an active, concerted decision to actually care about what Congress is doing, to follow it. I'm not that strong. I can't do it.
Be controversial points out, but changing the language of felon to justice involved individual is a budget item. Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. You see, yes, be controversial. You've just pointed out a clear and glaring deficiency in the logic that's applied by this woman. It's not complicated. She's an ideologically captured sociopath who's been given extraordinary power and is not exercising that power responsibly or in good faith. And that's, that is the lesson that we learned, that Donald Trump should have learned from the bump stocks and from the Iran bombing, is that these people, yes, those people, and no, Mario, I mean Democrats and people on the left and communists and socialists. So yes, also those people.
Yeah.
They're not good faith actors. They are not.
Yeah, exactly. Why do we need, let's say the big
honor is
bill,
not a concept to them.
Yeah. Big beautiful bill, it's more right than it is wrong. Okay. But from my perspective, why does it have to be a big beautiful bill? Why can't, do these people, are they allergic to work? Like, why can't you hold votes every, like, we're gonna hold 3 votes a week, okay, on the passages of provisions within the big beautiful bill that we all like, on their own merits, okay, as their own little 1-page bills. Why can't we do that? Like, is that too much work for you? Do you need to effectively do nothing for 6 months so that you can create the biggest, fattest summer sausage full of nonsense, that basically full of so much shit, full of so much that no person is going to be able to be, no person can read it, okay? That you can't make it through the bill to know what's in the bill. You have to pass the bill to find out what's in the bill, right? But it's, I don't know, it seems dishonest. The fact that you have a big beautiful bill, the fact that you're going to pack that much into a bill because you want to get it all done at once so that you can do nothing for 6 months, just seems really really disingenuous from Congress. And it's why people tune out. People tune out, and then they get away with more.
Yeah.
Because people give up.
Exactly.
People give up.
Okay. It is Firearms Friday. I do want to get to at least one DGU, and we are 45 minutes in. Here's the one, guys. Church massacre canceled. Shooter run over by deacon's truck, then fatally shot by staff. Now, in this context, when we say staff, we are talking about basically the churchgoers. I understand that some people are there, they have positions, deacons, etc., treasurers, whatnot. But yeah, so church massacre canceled. What promised to be a ghastly church massacre in Michigan on Sunday was prevented by the speedy reactions of a church deacon and 2 staff members. With the deacon unleashing the first blow with his truck before a security guard and another staff member polished off the assailant with gunfire. The drama played out at Cross Point Community Church in Wayne, Michigan, a western Detroit suburb. Police identified the dead shooter as Brian Anthony Browning, a 21-year-old white male, okay, with no known connection to the church. You know, if he wasn't white, it wouldn't say what he was. Browning arrived at the church in a Nissan truck shortly after 11 a.m. as a special vacation Bible school service. Say again?
I found a picture of him. I posted it in the Camario.
Okay, gotcha.
If you want to show the audience, if you want to, he's got that fluoride stare. Just a little bit.
Man, we got to figure out a better way. We got to figure out a better way for you to send images over here.
Yeah, I know. All right. So let's see. Where did you leave off?
Okay, so there he is with the fluoride stare.
The fluoride stare.
Yeah.
He drank the tap water.
God, that says he was 30. That kid is 31.
31. He's 31.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, special vacation Bible school service was underway, teeming with children and 150 congregants in all. Police say he was wearing a tactical vest and carrying both a handgun and a long gun, a pointlessly vague police term that could describe either a rifle or shotgun. After gaining the attention of staff members by driving recklessly outside the building, Browning exited his vehicle, and opened fire on the church. That's when he was met with a swift and decisive 1-2 punch. When a deacon saw the shooter moving toward the church, he immediately turned his Ford F-150 pickup truck into a 2-ton weapon, hitting the gas and running Browning over as the fiend fired multiple rounds at him. I've told this story before. Mario,
you're listening.
You've trained soldiers.
Yeah.
I got back from Afghanistan. We did a lot of convoy operations while I was downrange, and I and a couple of my NCO battle buddies were tapped to train a unit of Marines. It was about 30 of them for combat convoy operations. And these Marines were, they were good fighters. They were good Marines, but they were intel basement spook Marines who had never really done any tactical anything. Disney built us a series of trailers with basically simulation equipment, kind of a virtual reality training simulation. But
Disney?
Before that, Disney built them. Did you ever get to use the convoy simulator in Hawaii?
No.
It's amazing.
Best we got was the
you got
ESP.
a double wide trailer. You got a double wide trailer. In the trailer, there's a Humvee, right?
Yep.
It doesn't have tires on it. It's on these pneumatic springs to simulate the road noise and motion while you're driving. And then you've got the EST 3000 style laser replica.
Yep.
Right. And then the trailer, you're surrounded on 360 degrees with monitors, with television screens that are sensitive to the laser. So you can shoot the people out the window. You drive the truck. But I gave him that first briefing, and I'm like, okay, I need to see hands. Who are my drivers? Right. And there's a bunch of Lance Corporals raise their hand. I'm a driver. And I said, okay, you, Lance Corporal, what is your primary battle? What is your main battle system? What is your main battle weapon? And he starts to launch into this into the whole spiel about it's the M4A2 and gas operated, and he goes through the whole thing. He can't just say M4, right? Yeah. He has to go through the whole thing. And I said, just stop, dummy, stop. You're about to be driving a 5-ton armored vehicle. That, my boy, because we need you to keep doing your job and can't afford for you to take your hands off the wheel to try and operate your rifle, which, by the way, is in a rack to your right inside the armored truck. And you're in an armored truck. It's not like you have murder holes to shoot out of. That's what your turret gunner's for. No, son, your primary battle system is this armored truck. You need to run bitches over. And when I got them into the simulator, they took that shit to heart, and they were just running through crowds. It was awesome.
That would be my key takeaway from this as well. Okay, if a life and death situation should occur and you are absent any conventional weapons, okay, well, anything could be a weapon. You might utilize anything you have at your disposal. Anything around you as a weapon. All right.
Correct.
You'd be surprised.
Be Controversial says, in my pre-deployment training, the Humvee rollover sim was broken. Oh, brother.
Ours wasn't. I actually managed to do that. We did get the Humvee
rollover training is a bitch.
Yeah.
If you've never been in full battle rattle, body armor and boots in essentially a slow dryer.
Yeah. Spin cycle. Let's go. That's what I wanted. I'm like, can we make this go faster? How fast can this go?
Yeah, get it going. Let's do this.
Can we do Humvee rolls down the hill training? Come on.
That's
DPS report. Yes, it is the recent Michigan church shooting. It happened this past Sunday. Okay, so this week.
Yeah, and TPS report is saying that his mother was a member, and he did have ties to the church. So That
It's
maybe
entirely
that's a piece of news that has come out since I pulled this article, or
yeah.
frankly, since Mario pulled the article.
Well, this article's from 5 days ago, and I haven't seen an update to it. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, whatever. He's dead. That's what matters. You go and try to you attempt a church massacre, you end up dead. Okay. This is probably even more satisfying than the one in Texas where some old veteran basically stood up with a 45 and dome pieced a dude. Okay, who came in with an AK and was going to light up the church. This one's great because, well, the F-150. They ran him over and then lit him up. That's poetry.
And that's a DRT right there, baby. That's a good one.
Absolutely.
Hey, since Be Controversial brought up rollover trading, let me. Hey, wait a minute.
What?
Kevin Huff says the Short Act and Hearing Protection Act being removed from the big beautiful bill ends with Trump. He should have lobbied for a Senate Majority Leader with the balls to remove the parliamentarian. I don't disagree, but again, that we already covered. I'm not going to go back and spend too much time on that. That's not over yet. There is still time for JD to overrule the parliamentarian, but that we'll get there. We'll be looking for more updates going into next week. They're not dead yet, but they are imperiled, and they are imperiled by a leftist activist, like I said. Now, let me wrap on this. Since we were just talking about it, and it's a fun thing to talk about. I've showed you videos from going through the gas chamber before. Here's rollover training. This is Army Reserve soldiers from the 470th Movement Control Battalion in Illinois conducted vehicle rollover training in a simulator, Fort McCoy. This is what we do.
It's rollover training, so it simulates if the vehicle rolls over, how to egress, how to get out of it. So before soldiers deploy and just training, it's important that they get this type of training so they understand if they have a rollover or things like that overseas, if they fall into water area and starts filling up, it's important that soldiers know how to get out of their vehicle properly.
Nice masks for a sergeant.
Oh my God. Oh my God! I didn't know I was gonna be deeply offended by.
You didn't know this was gonna be cringe.
A soylent green 27-year-old first sergeant in a face diaper. But once
to be
these
honest,
guys
when I
coming
first
out,
got here and seeing it wasn't spinning too fast, I'm like, But then once I got into it, that felt like you actually feel it. Like when I was actually hanging, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't really think it was going to be this serious, right? But it actually did.
You see the big box around the top of it there? That is not normally part of an armored vehicle. That is a steel and glass case that is put around the top of the turret because that's an open hole that people can fall out of during this drill. If you fall out of the turret hole while it's rolling over, that is not the one you want.
if you didn't put on your seatbelt, yes. Yeah.
Equals, right? So
here's from the cameras from inside.
How to get around because you got this gear on and all this and that, and you just got to help your battles too. It's a teamwork, right? So we just got to get out as a team. How we go in as a team, we get out as a team.
Rubber ducks. Good? Yes.
Yeah, because what they do, they roll you over, and then they stop it in a random orientation, and you may or may not be able to access the door that you wanted to egress through. In fact, you might find that none of the doors are accessible and everybody has to crawl out through the turret. Or everybody has to climb around and try to crawl out through the driver's side or passenger side, front or rear door, whether you're in the front or back. It's Be Controversial says, so glad I didn't have to do that. Yeah, imagine having to do that with me. You know, it's one thing
yes.
to do that with other soldiers. It's another thing to do that with a double-sized soldier.
Yeah, and no, that's exactly the point. It's about basically you and your squad, okay, figuring out the most orderly way for everyone to get out of the vehicle, okay, and everybody take their damn turn. So, Chris, you need to either go out first or you need to go out last, okay,
Correct.
one or the other, all right, because we need you out of the way. And everyone else, you stay buckled up, hanging upside down. Okay, yeah. Don't cut your seatbelt yet. You need to wait. Lowry needs to get out of the way, or you're going to get squishied. Okay, in the process. Now,
in fact, that's how we did it. I stayed buckled into my seatbelt until all but one of the rest of the squad were out. He stayed behind to help me release the seatbelt.
Yeah,
so that I could brace myself. But
if you wanted to add another,
I basically hung there for about 6 minutes while everybody else was trying to get out, and I'm up against the what is now the top of the vehicle, hanging from the seatbelt. Just, guys, okay, guys, keep moving.
Is it my turn yet?
Yeah,
if you wanted to ramp up the training into nightmare mode, you would light it on fire. Okay, that's some real training.
Yeah, we didn't try that one. Maybe we should have.
Light it on fire, have it getting peppered with small arms fire, while everyone's trying to function.
If you didn't do rollover drills in the gas chamber, if you didn't do rollover drills in the gas chamber on fire, were you even in the Army?
Yeah.
Oh God, the air is spicy.
I wish there wasn't quite so much oversight in the Army. There was a lot. I could have done a lot. I could have done so much better training. All right, as an NCO, if they had just let me do whatever the fuck I want to do. Okay, but no, can't have that. Can't have that.
I don't know. I had a lot of leeway. We had some of the most on point. What's it called?
You were one of the spooky units.
Schemes.
You were a spooky unit, so you got a little more latitude. Okay, I was conventional. I was HHBN, Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 25th ID. Okay, yeah. As conventional as it gets. So yeah.
I got to do a lot of fun stuff because the unit I was in included Rangers and cats like that went through the special selection schools. And we handled missions that were sufficiently need to know that we couldn't train the unit at those schools because of concerns about because of concerns about information leakage. So instead, we had guys who were read into our mission come from those schools and train the unit. So we went through, and I'm sure it was a downplayed, softer version of all of it from the Ranger School and all that stuff. But we went through drown proofing and sear training and woodland survival. Hey, here's the woods for a week. There's pig and fresh fruit. Good luck. We did all that stuff, and it was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do that to my kids. So here's your safety brief, guys. We're going into the weekend. It's hot. It's fucking hot.
Yeah, like 100 degrees in New Hampshire. Like my in-law, my relatives are all like freaking out about it.
Yeah. So here's your safety brief. I'll usually give you something like don't drive drink, don't fry bacon naked. No, y'all. Hold still and drink water.
Drink water.
Drink water.
That's what happened to Sunnydale. Didn't drink water.
That's what happened to Sunnydale.
That's right.
He's doing good, Sunnydale. By the way. He's okay. Sunnydale's doing good, by the way. He kept his leg.
He's drinking water. He's drinking water now.
Yeah. Okay?
He's on the path to recovery.
Proud of him, praying for him. Love you, brother. So, y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow night.
Hooah.
Hooah. Got a hooah hooah.
That's right.
Hooah.